Earlier, Donald Trump had a press conference alongside the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, there was an interesting exchange that took place. A reporter asked Zelensky a question, and take a look at his answer.
President Zelensky, have you felt any pressure from President Trump to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
I think you read everything. So I think you read text. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be involved to democratic, open elections of USA. No, you heard that we had, I think, good phone call. It was normal. We spoke about many things, and so I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
President Trump.
Because you know what? There was no pressure. And you know there was, and by the way, you know there was no pressure. All you have to do is see it, what went on the call. But you know that. But you could ask the question, and I appreciate the answer.
So, look, we're about to go to something that I think is relevant to what Zelensky actually feels. But keep in mind that he's sitting next to the president of the United States. There's a giant imbalance of power there, because you have the leader of this country who gets to make decisions about whether or not you get your military aid, or you get your foreign aid, or you get any help when it comes to fending off Russia, which clearly wants to annex other portions of your own country, right?
Yeah.
So there's that imbalance of power. He very clearly doesn't want to answer the question. He's fumbling and bumbling. And then you have Donald Trump like staring at him as he's trying to weasel his way out of answering it.
Even so, I thought it was very clear. They're like, did he pressure you? And he didn't say no. He said, well, I don't want to get involved in US elections, and it was a good call. He didn't say he didn't pressure me. That's why Trump comes in and goes, in other words, no pressure. No, those are completely other words, not the words he said. And so, look, guys, this whole thing that Trump is hanging his hat on, that, hey, I didn't pressure him, I didn't mention the money that I was holding back. He was holding back the money, he used coded language, but none of that matters. And Trump is not bright enough to understand just asking him to investigate Biden already violates the law. I want to show you the law that I'm talking about, okay? This is 52 US Code 30121. It shall be unlawful for a person to solicit, this is now two, you see? Number one is for foreign countries to give us money for our campaigns. But if you go down to number two, it shall be unlawful for a person to solicit, accept, or receive a contribution or donation described in subparagraph A or B or paragraph 1 from a foreign national. And A and B explains a contribution or donation of money or other thing of value, or to make an express or implied promise to make a contribution or donation in connection with a federal, state, or local election. So very clearly there in 2A, it is unlawful to solicit, to ask for a foreign country to help you in your election, period. You know what unlawful means? It means illegal. So this whole conversation of, yeah, but did I threaten to keep the money or not, is important for a second crime. But for the first crime of simply asking them to investigate your political opponents, already illegal. So in other words, there was no pressure. It doesn't matter. You solicited help from a foreign government in your election. You belong in prison.
Now, over the weekend, Chris Murphy had an interview that was super relevant. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I want to remind you of what he had to say following his conversation with President Zelensky of Ukraine. Take a look.
I went to Kyiv in part because I had heard these concerns from my friends there that the government and Zelensky personally was really worried about these overtures he was getting, in particular from Rudy Giuliani. And he didn't understand whether this was an official government position, these requests to investigate the former vice president. So I went there to make it clear to him that the worst thing that he could do for the US-Ukraine relationship was to get involved in an election here in the United States. I will say what was interesting to me was is that he dispensed with the diplomatic protocols of that meeting. As soon as we sat down at the table in the presidential palace, he asked us what was going on with the aid. Why was it being withheld? He seemed very concerned and I think out of sorts about it. And then later in the meeting, I raised with him these overtures from the Trump campaign. He gave me a very strong answer. He said they had no intention to get involved in an American election, that they knew what damage it would do to them. And I left that meeting fairly confident that he understood.
So we know without a shadow of a doubt that the aid was withheld. Donald Trump spoke to his acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, and told him to withhold that funding. And when there were questions about why that funding was being withheld, there were no straight answers given. So that why was that funding withheld? It's very questionable. It was appropriated by Congress. There was no reason to withhold it. And then in response to what Murphy had said today during Donald Trump's solo press conference, he just put out a completely baseless claim about Murphy. Take a look.
And Chris Murphy, who I've been dealing with on guns, so nice. He's always, oh no, we want to work it out. We want to work it out. But they're too busy wasting their time on the witch hunt. So Senator Chris Murphy literally threatened the president of Ukraine that if he doesn't do things right, they won't have Democrat support.
So he's alleging that Chris Murphy threatened the president of Ukraine.
No, what he explained to him after being asked is, you should not be involved in US elections. If he said, if you know what's good for you, you support the Democrats, okay? You give me dirt on Trump, that would be threatening them. Oh, right, kind of like Trump did with the Ukrainians. It is not the same thing to say, get involved in our elections and don't get involved in our elections. Everyone except the child that is Donald Trump and all of his followers understand that. So, and this goes to the point of like people saying, oh, see, Trump wants to work on policy, but it's because Chris Murphy's being mean to him that he doesn't.
Please.
Really? Donald Trump wants to work on gun control with Chris Murphy? Well, he said he was gonna do federal background checks, and then he talked to the NRA and he said, oh, they don't want it, and they're big supporters of mine. In other words, he just blurted out, yeah, I take money from them, so I'm not gonna do it. He's not working on any policy. The only thing he's obsessed with, he's on a call with Ukraine. If I was president, I'd be like, I would have so many questions for the Ukrainian president. What are we gonna do about the Russians? What's going on in Crimea? What's going on in Eastern Ukraine? And get into this conversation about, and then there's trade issues, etc. We've all read the 5-page memo on what happened in the call. Almost none of that. There was one small reference to European allies not giving as much money as we give. But it was all in the context of, we've been good to you, now help me out with Biden and CrowdStrike, okay, do me a favor, right? And then I predict your economy will be good. That is interfering in our elections, that is asking for it. Zelensky's in a horrible spot. I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's why he asked Murphy, according to Murphy, why are they holding up the aid? We were already supposed to get it. And normal course, if you don't know this, is when Congress appropriates the money, there are certain, they say, State Department gives this, Pentagon gives that, and if there are other departments, they tell them which departments are giving the aid. And State Department and Pentagon were ready to give the aid over when Mick Mulvaney, the acting chief of staff for Trump, calls them and says, don't give it to Ukraine. And Trump then has a call a couple of days later with Zelensky and says, your economy could be good if you were to help me with Biden. And again, even if you don't think it's a threat, it doesn't matter. He is soliciting an in-kind donation from a foreign country. And so, by the way, a lot of people are trying to figure out the mystery of why did he release the memo of the call where we can tell what he said, because that admits a crime. And so that everybody thought, since he's gonna release it,
that he might redact it, or
even if he didn't redact it, they thought, well, maybe what he said wasn't as bad as the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal, et cetera, are reporting. And they look at it and it's worse. So why did he do it? I'll solve the mystery for you. Because he's not smart. And by the way, the arrogance also, because his advisors likely told him, Mr. President, don't release that. And he's like, what? I didn't say that I would break his kneecaps. It's fine. They're like, yes, but there's the other crime. No, I didn't say break kneecaps. I didn't say I'd withhold the $400 million. I'm releasing it. Yes, I swear to you. The main reason is he's not smart. So we look at that transcript and go, oh my God, you admitted a crime. He looks at it and goes, what? No, I don't see it, no way.
You know what, in fact, not to throw a curveball at the control room, but I wanna go to A1. This video really highlights what you're talking about, Jank. This is Trump talking about his view of the call with the Ukrainian president.
It's the single greatest witch hunt in American history, probably in history, but in American history. It's a disgraceful thing. The letter was a great letter, meaning the letter revealing the call. The way you had that built up, that call, it was going to be the call from hell. It turned out to be a nothing call, other than a lot of people said, I never knew you could be so nice.
So.
No, look, guys, he doesn't get it. He doesn't know what the law is. He doesn't care what the law is. And he won't listen to anyone else. He won't listen to any advisors. And advisors are so scared of him that he's gonna arbitrarily fire him that they don't even tell him, hey, Mr. President, you're admitting to breaking the law. They're all walking on eggshells. You know, one of the reasons why he liked the call and released it? Because throughout the call, Zelensky is being really nice to him.
Yep.
Oh, Mr. President, I am following your lead. You showed me how to fight corruption and drain the swamp. Oh, Mr. President. He's like, well, this is a beautiful call. This is a perfect call. I can't wait for people to realize how much this guy likes me. Today, he was complaining about, I used to get only good press when I wasn't president. Now I'm getting bad press. Focus, you idiot. This isn't about ratings anymore. This isn't about whether you're getting good press clippings or not. You committed a crime while president, but he can't see straight. And look, last thing, guys, the rest of the reporters can't understand him. They keep looking for the secret strategy because they can't comprehend that the president of the United States of America would be that unintelligent. I'm telling you, it's the simplest answer. He's a child, and an arrogant, buffoonish child. So it's like getting his hand caught in the cookie jar and go, no, mommy, no. That's my fingers, not my hand. I got you, right? He really believes it. You think he read the law that I just read you? You think he understands or comprehends that? The whole time when they were saying, hey, you can't work with the Russians for them to give you information, he literally said to one of the reporters very late in the process, he was like, well, why? Remember when Stephanopoulos was in the White House? He was like, why wouldn't I listen to incriminating information if it was given to me by a foreign government? Because it's illegal? Even as he's being investigated, the Mueller investigation is over and they're about to go and testify. He's like, why wouldn't I accept it? Why wouldn't I punch you in the face? Why wouldn't I commit a robbery? If I committed the robbery, I'd have more money. He's that stupid. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.